6 o'clock on the nose, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go ahead and bring our meeting to order. Ms. James, would you please go ahead and call the roll of council?
The Honorable Mayor Pro Tem Alex Heath.
Present.
The Honorable James Whitmore.
Present.
The Honorable Samantha Hudson.
Present.
The Honorable Hattie Portis Jones.
Present.
The Honorable Linda J. Davis.
Present.
The Honorable Ulysses J. Smallwood.
Absent right now. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go, at this point, Mr. Phillips, we'll go straight into
First item is strategic plan presentation by leaders, City Administrator's Office.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Tonight we're excited to present the vendor that was chosen to undertake the city strategic plan. As you know, in our council retreat last year, there was some conversation in reference to the city doing a strategic plan and having performance measures and KPIs. And so on September 12th of last year, we the RFP, a total of 15 proposals from vendors, and so LeaderGov actually won the award to undergo the strategic plan for the city. And so I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Mr. B.
To be Mark. Tonight talking about other communities, their plan. Most of the cities we serve are about your size. Fayetteville is a customer of ours. Stockbridge is a customer of ours. Of course, they're a little bigger now. They annexed a good bit of territory. Chamblee, Georgia, and others. So we are familiar with this area and work with cities of your size quite a bit. We do retreats and planning, and leadership development is our other business. So when we think about strategic planning, we ask the question, well, what's the benefit? Why are we doing this? And even Fayetteville, of where we want to go as a community. 5 years from now, that's a huge benefit of a strategic. What agriculture-based community has come up in the plan? Who do we want to be long term? Aspect, there's also of getting input from the community. We need to hear from our citizens. Now, you represent the citizens, but it's oftentimes good to go right to the citizen, have a town hall meeting, sort of survey, and hearing citizens and getting it. Clear, be focused on. Staff, of course, has operation on their plate. Where we're going, 2, 3, that direct to what you want. These are some of the things we work with others. Often, in fact, and we're actually going to ask you to help shape the vision, mission, and values of the city. We're going to ask for your input on that. We are looking forward to, being able to say, the city of Fairburn is going to be blank, and we believe in blank. So we're going to help you along with that process. Stakeholder input I've already mentioned. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on that in just a moment. We have goals and execution. So, we have big picture goals. We're going to land a man on the moon in the next decade. You remember that goal? Yep. And then we got smaller goals. Build a rocket fuel system. Build a spacesuit. Build a reentry system. You got sub-goals under your big goals. And so part of this planning process is to meet with you all and find out what are those big goals, and then working with the staff to detail them out so we have clear roadmap to get to the goal. And then lastly is documenting the plan. At the end of the day, you're going to have a document that you can put on your website, give to friends and family, business people. And it'll be your city's strategic plan that you can adopt at some point at a upcoming council meeting. So in terms of stakeholder input, one of the things we're going to help you all with is facilitate a town hall meeting. And this would need to be something that's communicated well in advance. We got a public location. People are invited to come. You can do this at a public building or wherever you would like to do it. We also want to assist and facilitate an online survey so people can provide feedback, on their preferences for the city of Fairburn. We may also do a Zoom town hall where people can just log in remotely. Not everybody can make it to 7 o'clock on Tuesday. So we want to find lots of ways to engage citizens to give us the kind of input that we want to hear from them. The beliefs I already mentioned. One of our sessions with you, this will take 2 or 3 hours. This is a kind of a difficult, it can be a difficult process, but we need to know, what is the vision for this city? Where are we going? What do we want to be in 5 or 10 years? Not that we're there today, but we want to get there. What's our mission? What's our daily mission? And what are our values? What do we stand for? What's important to us? And if we can all marshal around what's important to us, then we have the culture that we want. So we're going to talk to you about core values, core beliefs. Setting strategic goals is a big part of this process. Again, you have sort of big picture goals, and then you've got breaking that goal down into smaller pieces. And so we're going to be asking you all, what are those big picture goals? Do we need a new transportation loop around town? Do we need to get that public safety building wherever to another phase? What are the big rocks that we need to move in the community in terms of goals? And then we're also going to be meeting with the staff to say, okay, now, here's the goal. How do we get there? What are the steps to get there? And develop timelines and milestones to help achieve the goal that you want. With those goals are also KPIs. We have to be able to measure, are we successful? Target, Walmart, they measure success by profit and number of customers and market share. That's how they know if they're successful. So we have to have measures in local government to say, if we hit this number, we're successful. So we want to be sure that whatever goal we develop, we're very clear on what success is, and a KPI is a great way to articulate how we measure success. And then lastly is goal execution. What steps are we going to take as a staff and council to stay connected to these goals on a regular basis, reporting in progress? We find a roadblock, we need to get around the roadblock. How do we keep momentum around goals and not let things slow down? So we're going to do some training and workshops around goal execution, because at the end of the day, we need to move the needle. So that's really all I had to share in terms of an overview. Those are the 4 main areas. I did have a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. We don't have to answer them tonight, but maybe at one of our future sessions you could help us answer them. Which is, what would you like to see out of this process? What outcome would you like to see? What's important to you? We also, by the way, when we have our workshop time, sometimes we can do team building activities in our council staff workshops. So if you all want to engage in any of that sort of training, if you will, in the workshop, we're happy to do that as well. These workshops are flexible. We want to meet you where you are and serve you in the areas you want to be served. But with that, I'll just pause and see if there are any questions. We are getting pretty close to hitting the go button, so we're going to be setting some dates for these town halls pretty soon and making progress. So we want to get whatever input, questions you all have
Members of council,
as you'd like to
have
give
a
them.
question. Go ahead, Mr. Davis, and then actually Mr. Hutz. You had a question, go ahead.
I really sort of have a statement in reference to your question about what would I like to see the benefits from our citizens and from staff, that they know that they have a voice in this city, and that their ideas, their questions, their concerns, their challenges, whatever it is, that they have a voice. And we honor that voice. Without them, it would be no us. Staff, the benefit to staff is that they will know that they are an integral part of the entire composition of this city as to where we are now, where we want to go, and how involved they are in that decision-making process and voicing their opinion. And then they will have the desire to meet the goals because they have taken ownership and they have voiced their opinions. So that's what I can see the benefits for them.
Very well said.
Okay,
Yes.
Ms. Hunt?
I'm very familiar with the model that you're using. Policy is my background. I want to make sure objectivity and validity is in this process, especially when it comes to staff, that they have clear lines of communication to convey the messaging that they need to convey and make sure that that is not smothered by whatever, by council members, by whatever. That's very important. I would like to know when the go button is set. And I truly believe that the leadership has to be modeled. So this council definitely needs to have in-depth training and development in this process. We need to know the strategic plan in the process and be able to articulate it in concert. I think when we as leaders can convey that messaging, that in turn will promote stakeholder engagement. So that's key there. In this process with stakeholder engagement, I would like to know, what do you know about Fairburn's challenges to stakeholder engagement and how you will work to get around those challenges to increase stakeholder engagement, including calling on us, the elected leaders, to facilitate and help put voice behind those town halls, because we are in a critical time in development in our town. And we really need our stakeholders abreast and knowing what is happening and that their input is being taken by us as advice. So I'm a firm believer that everything rises and falls in leadership. And when we are making strategic decisions about our planning for this city's future development, as well as our comprehensive plan that's going to be moving forward. That's legacy to me. I see that as legacy, meaning that we in our community have a large developing 35 Gen Z. They Gen Z? No, millennium. They're millennium. So I gave birth to Gen Zs. But our millenniums are the homeowners here. And what I don't want to see happen in this community, that happens in a lot of communities similar to Fairburn, is that it's that workforce focus only, work and family. There's no engagement in a community, and there's a priority, of course, to take care of our family. But we have in Fairburn a very large population of homeowners who are millenniums. And so my vision is that this government, this city, begins to take on the characteristics that's closely and directly related to its citizenry.
Wow.
Okay, and
Good.
go ahead, Ms. Jones.
Thank
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's one more
Go
thing
ahead,
that
Ms.
came up.
You still got to go with it.
When you talk about our vision, one of the key cornerstones that Fairburn has coined is the slogan, "Situated to Succeed." But I think that slogan has been abandoned by actions that it takes to get to that place of succession. Our city truly has an entrepreneurship spirit. With its unique position on the south side and landlocked, Fairburn's biggest bang for its buck when it comes to business, I truly believe, is entrepreneurship. Having an entrepreneurship community means that the target products and base and market is centered around that dollar in that community, and citizens are more than likely to spend their dollar in their community when they know that those service or those vendors are providing those products and services that they use the most. I'm done.
Yeah, thank you. Very well said.
Ms. Jones?
Yes, Councilwoman Hudson expressed my sentiments as well. So, thank you.
Any other? Mr. Whitmore, Mr. Well, what I'll say, sir, as it relates to, this is, I guess, kind of a second round of doing this back when I first came mayor in 2010, and the company, if I remember correctly, the Sizemore Group, I believe, was the company that actually did almost a mock of what we did. Actually, the members of council had several workshops. I don't know if you know those. I don't know if Allison, you remember that. We actually, yes, sir. We had numerous workshops, and so the only question I'm concerned, not concerned, only question I have for you as it relates to this, the data collection portion of it. Talk me through the data collection portion of it with the community engagement, in particular with the vision of the council, because in this case, me and the council came together, and actually a lot of what is manifested was a result of us actually, I don't know if several members of council remember that we actually went to other cities, Norcross, I believe, Norcross, Ackworth, I want to say about 8 cities, and we came back with literally, and nobody creates anything new now. So what's happened in this case, we basically took what we saw and actually enhanced it to another level. I particularly remember going to the city of Kennesaw and going through underpass, like the underpass that takes us across from CVS. In this case, it looked like a museum in the underpass. And so my point is, kind of talk me through that, the data collection process with the council and then the data collection process with the public.
Yes, it's a great question, and there are lots of different ways to get different types of data. You have qualitative data, which is tell me what you think, give me your opinion, and then there's quantitative data, which is rate the trash services on a scale of 1 to 5. We get a 4.5. That's so in the written survey, in the online survey, which we're recommending that you do, we want to get a lot of people to respond, probably 400 or 500. That's a lot. So I haven't done the analysis yet to know how many exactly, but it's a few hundred. And in that survey, we can ask them questions like, tell us how satisfied you are with our police department. Tell us how satisfied you are with the progress of redeveloping the South Side. Tell us how satisfied you are with our city council. I mean, we can ask any question we want, and we're going to get a scientifically, relatively speaking, accurate answer of the mood of the community. We can also ask questions like, do you want to increase the number of parks activities? Do you want to increase the number of downtown social gathering activities? And again, as people respond, we're now getting a statistic. Oh, you know what? We got a 4.8 out of 5. They want more downtown activities. So that's some really good data for you then to have and say, wow, you know, our citizens are telling us, I didn't realize they felt that strongly about that. So that's what the online survey is going to do for you. The in-person town halls are going to give people more of an opportunity, I would say, to share areas where they would like to see improvements. We oftentimes will do a SWOT analysis with the citizens and say, what are the strengths of Fairburn? What are the weaknesses of Fairburn? What are some opportunities that we have, and what are some threats that we have? And actually get them to speak into those 4 areas. We can do that live or on Zoom. We've done both before, but that's a little more what I say qualitative data. That's more their opinion, their feeling, whereas the survey is going to give you hard numbers that you can base decisions on.
Okay, and then and as it relates to information, I can tell you, this government actually went in a city that stands out to me. I want to say, I can't remember if it was Covington or Conyers. We went to both.
Okay.
In this case, the use of their downtown outdoor, which in this case, our campus is actually now being is almost indicative of what we saw back then. So I guess with that being said, my question is, you're going to bring in, obviously, this is not a first rodeo for you, so my real question to you is, I'm trying to figure out how to ask this professionally. Tell me what are you gonna give us to work from? I'm trying to find a nice way to say that.
Well, it's a very difficult question, and we have to be careful. We need to know where you are now.
Okay.
What's the mood of the community? What's the vibe? What's the culture? And what's reasonable to move to? Because we don't want to, we've seen, I mean, I live in Alpharetta. If I said, wow, you should duplicate Alpharetta, well, no, that's not going to work in Fairburn. That's 80,000 people. This is 18,000 people. So part of the process of doing these town halls and the survey is for us to understand from you and from the staff, where is the community today? What's working? What's not working? And then we can craft questions that get right to the heart of the issue. So we're going to go through a little bit of an education from the staff and from you all on developing the best set of questions and the best approach possible. But yes, to answer your question, we know communities that are getting data centers and redeveloping downtown and, you know, all sorts of things that may or may not be valuable for Fairburn.
And with that, one last question, and Ms. Jones, I'll let you do it. And with that being said, actually, Ms. Hudson brought up something that kind of beat me to the punch. As it relates to dealing with, in this case, you got millennials, Generation Z, and I'm sorry, I can't keep up with them. And so, and I've got.
All in one.
And so then I've got a senior community here that's pretty solid.
Right.
We had a great showing of that at our last council meeting, and so my point to you is going to be, I'm sure, like I said, this won't be anything new. My question is going to be the data to report or the data collection process. The part I'm trying to make sure is that you get a fair ratio
Yes.
of each
Okay.
segment, and I don't know if you do that based on ratio from both ethnicity, both culture, you know, all the different, and so age, yeah, and so that's my concern, just making sure that when the council finally comes together, whatever final report, we can truly say, all 6 members and myself can say, you know, the objective was to touch every avenue.
Yes.
And based off the report, the majority said, here's the direction we need to do. Because when it's all said and done, Ms. Huss actually made a comment at our last council meeting that actually was a very, and she said, you know, what's going to happen, you're going to have people that's going to end up, when this is all said and done, you know, oh, that's not what I wanted. But, well, we're going to be on the Call of Duty sending you notification, asking for your input, and I'm saying it publicly, we're going to go beyond the Call of Duty because I know what we did the first time with the Sizemore group. We actually had a great turnout, to my surprise. And, but the culture and the dynamics is 180 degrees in another whole direction.
Yes.
From almost some 2010, 2011, I mean. And so, just, you know, with that being said, I'll go ahead and yield to Ms. Jones.
Did you want to respond?
Well, I agree, and it's very important that we're careful about where and how we get these surveys.
Okay.
Because you're right, we don't want one class, one group of folks, old, young, whatever, dominating the feedback. We do not want that. We want a nice, broad array of feedback from the citizens.
Correct.
And that alludes to the question I wanted to ask you is, how do you help us to deal with conflicting wants and needs and desires?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, that is a great question, and it's hard because you're going to get feedback that says we should go in 10 directions, and they're going to be opposite directions in all likelihood. And you're going to have to make a hard decision because you don't have the money, the staff, or the time to do all 10. It's just, you don't have that time. So we have to be able to prioritize what the community is telling us. Some things might not be no, some things might be, we should look at that in 3 years. So I'm not saying no, but you know, we're going to have to wait on that 3 or 4 years. Or, so it's going to require, and part of our workshop process is to go and say, okay, of all these 20 goals that you think you want to accomplish in the next 5, 6 years, we need to focus on 5 because we don't have enough money to do all 20. And so it's gonna, it's hard. I mean, you're making calls and not everybody's gonna be happy because it's not my demographic that benefited from it. and that's just part of the job. But we will definitely help you weigh the pros and cons of these different ideas so that you are able to make the best decision possible.
I think, and also, it's going to be very important that we communicate and reiterate to our citizenry the fact that, one, our size, both financially as well as population-wise, but also in terms of land mass. We are landlocked. There is nowhere else we can go. So we have to be very strategic, no pun intended, with how we use the land that we have and/or redevelop the space that we have. And I think it's very, very important that we communicate that and we re-communicate that because that'll help add context or guidance to what it is people say they want. And so I think that's and then secondly, I would ask, as we are going through this process, we've sort of done these things here recently via projects that have come before us. I ask that you educate yourself about, what has happened doing those particular projects. LCI, what we're doing with that, connectivity project, we're doing with that, downtown development, what we're doing with all of that. Because you'll start to see, you'll begin hearing the same thing or seeing the same thing. So if that's the case, what is it that we're missing, relative to all of that? And then lastly, to your second question about do we feel that council needs team development? And I want to say yes, I would request that, but of course I'm only one voice, and so I would hope my colleagues would agree to that as well.
Mr. Whitmore?
Thank you, Mayor. Bill, can you enlighten me a little bit post-pandemic? I know you've dealt with some cities post-pandemically speaking, and the questions and the strategic plan differs from what it was prior to the pandemic. So what do you mean? In this town of 18, 19,000 citizens, okay, we want shopping, downtown, nightlife, restaurants, 74 corridor, same type thing. Supermarket, so on and so forth. And you'll probably hear some of those things repeated. But I'm really trying to key in on what you have experienced post-pandemically.
Yeah, the biggest difference that we've seen post-COVID is in the staff executing the goals. You all probably have people working from home for a period of time. You may be hiring younger people into the workforce who want flexible hours. They don't want to come to work at an office. And so we have seen teamwork suffer. I'm not saying that's the case here at all, because we've not had that conversation, but most organizations, the staff organization has had to really focus hard again on building relationships, because we didn't have to be with each other for a couple of years. We were hands off, and working as a team. And that to us has been the biggest impact of the pandemic, is in the way the staff interacts with each other and the council because of the impact that COVID had on everybody.
So then, just to add to it, so I think one of my other colleagues, or either yourself, stated about having a well-rounded, really focused strategic plan where we're touching all bases. I think the mayor mentioned we have an older population here in the city that's very outspoken. all right? And then we have some of our middle-aged, as well as a lot of our younger grown-ups, if you will. But again, the community engagement is going to be big. And we have talked in this city a while about finding various ways of communicating, because the ways of doing it back pre-COVID is different from post-COVID. And I just want to make sure we're hitting all those key factors when we're starting to engage our citizenship, because again, we would like to see 500 plus to really have some nice input to help us, and still understanding that we may not be able to do it all financially, but we can focus on those 5 key areas, 5 to 7 key areas, and make it work. And again, the work, eat, and play, and the team concept, and it's not just us as elected officials or city staff, but the citizens, and it's going to take all 3 elements coming together, merging as one,
Yes.
in order to make this a successful strategic plan, something that we'll have a working document on where we can reach our goal, the realistic goal,
Yeah.
not an impossible goal.
Right. I think you bring up a great point of people want to feel connected now, like they couldn't during COVID. And so to the degree that we can offer them more opportunities to gather and share common values and enjoy each other, engage as a community, that's big.
And I think, well, I heard one of my colleagues mention it, I think it was Hattie Portis-Jones, but again, that team building, even for council and staff, is going to play a huge role for us to be successful in this endeavor.
I agree. Ms. Davis, and then I'll come back to Ms. Jones. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Stark, in reference to all the things that my colleagues have said, and the different things that you're going to be asking for from different various groups, citizens and staff, how much weight, with all this incoming information and data, how much weight will you put on or place on where we are now, where the city is now? How would you weight that?
Yeah.
And looking at all these other things that are coming in, like the 5 or 10 different directions that may,
Yeah.
how much weight do you place on where we are now?
Yeah, that's a great question. When we set a goal, it needs to be realistic, but it needs to be a little bit of a push. And so I would say, if we score a 1 out of 5 on trash collection, I'm just making up numbers, I would not try to go to a 5 in 12 months. I would say, let's go from a 1 to a 2. And what can we do to improve customer service and trash collection to get from a 1 to a 2, ultimately to get to a 3 or 4. So I think it's very important that we not try to go too big, but be reasonable. So I think understanding where we are today and the quality of service and the level of service, we got to deal with reality. And we can't double and triple things overnight. It just doesn't happen. And so I say we put a lot of weight on where we are, would be my opinion.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Just one last thing. I would also ask, and I don't know how realistic this is, but as we go through this process and we get on the other side of it, if you could identify a city that is like ours and like where we want to go. And then I would also ask if we could organize a field trip that would include the policymakers as well as citizens to help to see what that vision might look like.
Yeah, it's a great idea, absolutely. Similar, up to maybe 30,000 population, 25, something similar sized.
That's visionary now. Yes, I mean,
That's similar.
that is highly possible, yes, yes.
Oh, it's a great idea. Absolutely.
The last thing I wanted to share, you done?
Yes, ma'am.
Is, so, when I think about what you are tasked with doing and what we have going on now, there is current data that you will be able to draw secondary analysis on the information that are coming in from the comp plan, and I believe another plan that's coming forth. Those things are really available, so I think that
100%.
would be a good way to get to the now.
Absolutely.
Because we want to get to the people, because we got the now on paperwork. And so with that being said, that's a courtesy to you.
Yeah, it is. It is. You know, we can't know everything about every city. But
Absolutely.
we need to study quickly and find out where you are, where the sentiment is, and what's realistic. We want to get grounded in reality. So 100%.
Thank you.
And the last thing I'll say, we'll go to the next item, with a couple of other major infrastructure changes that's going to happen in our city. The I-85 Interchange 74, which is going to do a major facelift from that side of the city. It's going to be a major impact from a commercial. We've got a great, with Ms. Abernathy and her team in the city administration, we've got a great team right now that have been able to recruit businesses, but that's going to change the visual impact in so many different ways when that's all said and done. And I believe that's, in this case, we're talking about a 3-year project. So, but, and so I'm sure that's going to be a major part, kind of go along with what you just mentioned, being told what's going on. That's going to be a
Yes.
facelift in terms of commercial development and the impact of it 3 years from now. So,
Yeah, that's exciting. Exciting.
so oh, I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I apologize.
I just thought of something. In working with the cities that you've worked with, have you found that having things for the children, the teens to do, is something that is more important than like a downtown shopping or whatever like that, like we've gone through before with the downtown shopping, and I just don't think our downtown is suited for that, to be honest with you. It's not large enough, in other words. But of course, out on 74 Highway, we do have quite a bit of shopping, restaurants, stuff like that. But do you think things like at our Duncan Park area, for example, it was something that was brought forward, I guess about 12 years ago, dealing with maybe an indoor basketball court, and I think it was in Wisconsin that we went through National League of Cities to view, and it was a library upstairs, but downstairs they had things like learning how to make quilts, even cutting records and stuff like that. That a lot of the people that lived in the downtown area just put a major use to that. So what do you think? Do you think that having something for extracurricular activity, so to speak, learn how to make rugs or whatever like that, would be a better draw than trying to do something with our downtown area, seeing as how it is so much smaller than probably some of the towns that you've dealt with?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that question.
You know?
I wish I did. You know, if I would say that if your downtown were on the verge of a breakthrough,
Right.
that where you could have 3 restaurants and 3 nightclubs and whatever in the next 12 months, 18 months,
Right.
that would generate tax revenue to go build lots of parks, I might say do the downtown first.
Yes.
But if you're not that close to a vibrant, fully engulfed downtown, then maybe it is investing in the youth. I don't know the answer. It just, again, depends on kind of where you are today and what's realistic, what's reasonable.
Right, okay, gotcha, thank you.
Mayor,
Go ahead, sir, and then we're going to go to the next
I
item.
just want to leave one word with you, 2 words.
Yes, sir.
Hudson Plaza. Make sure you talk to the city administrator about that, because that could be a game changer for the city of Fairburn. Hudson Plaza.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Thank you, members of council. Mr. James, could you call our next item?
The next item is the Old Camel Courthouse presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'll try to be concise. So we had an opportunity to get some really great feedback from residents. We started off with reaching out to various consultant teams to figure out who had some experience with projects of this nature, just to kind of kickstart the conversation. Dover Cole and Partners provided us with a public charrette, a 3-day intense public input session where anybody who had any opinions, any feedback, any concerns had an opportunity to come to the meeting and provide their feedback. The team looked at a lot of historical information, not just the building itself, but the context of the entire community. They looked at the historical documents to really get context for the history of the building, the architecture. They knew about the fire, the extent of the damage. Our building operations team did an awesome job of really getting them up to speed on the current condition. They actually had an opportunity to go in and do tours. They had an urban designer, an architect who were familiar with construction, so they were able to go in and really see what the current condition was. So they started off with just looking at the study area, because a lot of times with projects of this nature, you kind of focus on the building and not necessarily how the building and the entire condition is affecting the surrounding neighbors who have homes, who live here, who love Fairburn. We had a pretty good turnout from both the neighborhood, from folks from out of town who are just interested in historic preservation, from developers, from real estate agents, anyone who had an interest in doing something in Fairburn were able to come to those meetings. We started off with a tour in a very cold December day where we walked around the courthouse, and the group showed up. It was about 20. They walked around the entire courthouse and got to actually, at the end of the tour, look inside and peek and see exactly what that condition was. The team actually got a drone so that they could look at all sides of the building and talk to the community about what this entire area meant to them. The community members were thrilled to really just have an opportunity to really start the dialogue, not necessarily saying that we had any answers. We just wanted to know what their feelings were one way or the other. The team created this space for anybody to express their opinions in a safe, respectful, but really free-flowing atmosphere, even in the cold. The back of the building was probably one of the most surprising things. They were saying that that was really the biggest flaw in the overall design. It's a building that is seen from all corners, but the back itself is kind of missing that piece, and people walked around and told us their family history and how they felt one way or the other. They actually peeked inside. And then we came back into the warmth, and thank you for allowing us to use council chambers as a community sort of space where everybody got some food, got something warm, and just sat down. And the consultant team kind of guided through a conversation about what other communities had done and what they wanted to see happen, with the understanding now of having seen inside the facility to understand what the conditions were. So every potential scenario was placed in front of all those visitors. Things like, what would it mean to restore it for public purposes? If you cannot save it and it's demo, then what happens next? If it is sold or transferred for private purposes, what does that look like? Or a public-private partnership? And the consensus from most of those members who came for the first night was really some sort of civic building of sorts, even though having understood that, the condition would mean that there would have to be some sort of partnership with outside resources. So all of the public input was written down and gathered regarding, what was most important in terms of the trees, and some folks just thought it would be cool if it was some sort of outdoor space. And they took all of this information and started to really think strategically, and the consultant team kind of put some scenarios in front of us. What was sort of the least expensive? Even though it's gonna cost, what would it mean if the building was demoed? They actually took a picture of it and showed us what it would look like if that building was no longer there. and then what happens next? And that question was posed. Of course, at this point, we don't have an answer to that question. We had somebody actually bring in Christmas ornaments. So we got every potential type of dialogue and feedback you could imagine. And the consultant team, kind of looked at the space and started to think of talking about sort of that least to moderate to most expensive approach. What happens if you put some sort of civic building in the back so that it could be used for concerts or something of that nature? Somebody threw out ideas about doing some sort of movie on the green. They also looked at the most ambitious, because people kept talking about civic spaces. Then what would that mean? And how do you do that in a way that's going to be expensive and going to need some partners at the table? But what does that look like? And so they did some quick sketches of what it would mean if you had an amphitheater inside, or if you were to use it as sort of a banquet hall or something of that nature. They also looked at what it would mean to do a public-private partnership where someone who has an interest in, preservation took it and made it into some sort of residential space with different units in the back, and that some communities have done that. But even if you decide to do some sort of public-private partnership, the transportation piece is always going to be an issue. There's no parking, so you have to deal with that. And they did explore kind of what the possibilities are with adding additional parking spaces similar to what we did near Landmark. Of course, that would be some cost, but that's always a possibility. So at the end of it all, the first step they recommended was that we kind of figure out exactly what we want to do, and then figure out what the cost is associated with all of those options, and maybe kind of get those down to about 2. There is a Friends of the Courthouse Square that was created from the general public. They made it themselves. They also wanted to make sure that, while a decision is being made, that because of the collapsing roof, that a tarp was placed. Our building operations team has already hit the ground running to make sure that we're at least covering it while a decision is being made. A recommendation for landscaping was requested, and then exploring what potential grant opportunities and things of that nature are available. But even for that, we would need some sort of consensus on what are the next steps, or what would you like to see explored. We would also recommend that we have some sort of date or deadline, and then maybe even a community-wide survey. We did get a lot of community feedback in that meeting, but definitely putting something out to the greater community so that we can figure out what residents who live here, shop here, work here, just getting as much feedback as we possibly can. And I know that was a lot of information all at once, but so we did want to at least give you guys some options and show you some images and let you know where we were.
Question for you. So, just so that I be real clear, what is it that you're trying to acquire from council today, or it's just an information session?
Information, and if it is okay with council, we can certainly begin the process of doing a larger survey, or if council wants us to take another direction, we can certainly do so.
Go ahead, Ms. Jones, and then.
So I did participate in that community walkthrough, and it was very educational for me. I really learned a lot about Fairburn's history, about the square, about the courthouse, and the different phases for it. And sitting in on the session when we came indoors, just hearing the feedback. The drivers of the conversation were the Historical Society, O Campbell County Historical Society. And I made a point, and I want to reiterate that point, which you've alluded to in your presentation, that not all the voices were in the room, and that we needed to hear from a broader constituents of the city of Fairburn. Many of them were former residents of Fairburn and had that connection, but no longer live here. We need to hear the voices of the people who live here, which is very, very important. And I would say that, quite frankly, needs to be a next step, because what you've presented is only that one side. So we do need to hear from the rest or more of Fairburn residents. I also wanted to ask, and I couldn't recall, have we applied for a historic preservation designation, or does something need to happen before we can do that?
The building is a historic structure.
It is,
already.
so for the record, because I was asked by a couple residents regarding this, could you state what that means? And there's a perception that if we have that designation, that there's money that's attached to that. It's a perception, so I want you to state for the record, what does historic preservation designation mean? And what are the advantages of that? And are there dollars associated with it? And if there are, in what form might those dollars be?
There are no definite dollars associated with that designation. It simply means that because of the age of a structure or because of its architectural significance, that it is historic. Typically, there are various communities that have lots of historic structures and buildings that are in their communities, and that does mean you're eligible but not guaranteed funding. I think what's really important, if the goal is to pursue funding, is to figure out exactly what the funding is going to be used for, because you have to have some sort of scope of work when you're asking for any kind of funding. And of course, because of its historic nature, that does not mean that we are guaranteed or have some sort of priority. We are in the same position as other communities that also have buildings where they're trying to kind of figure out what that new use is going to be. So it is a competitive process.
Okay. Thank you for that information. So I would ask then that our first priority is to hear from the rest of the community, and then we need to make a decision about what direction we are going to go. Because every day that the building sits vacant and empty, one, is an eyesore to the community, but two, we need to make it useful. Put it back in some form or the other. So we need to decide what that is. And so I would ask that we make that utmost priority in getting some direction on what it is that the community wants from this. And then secondly.
Go ahead, you still got, go ahead.
Then secondly, the request by several of the residents who live in the area to landscape or to, just to beautify the area, I don't think is an unreasonable request. And so if we can take a look at doing something just to beautify it, and those screen on the green, those kind of things are just low-hanging fruit and not very costly, that we could begin using the facility, and that may help to also generate future ideas about usage.
Mr. Heath?
Yes,
Ms. Chris wanted to respond to my question.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
Thank you.
In reference to that, we have spoke to a number of residents that live in the immediate area. There is a request, as you know, with the fire, the second-story windows are boarded up. And so there is a request for the city to put window panes back in that space. However, that would be a cost that Mr. Dana Smith would have to meet with or partner with procurement to put out an RFP for that, because we don't know what that cost would be. But ultimately, we could bring something in the near future before council with your approval to utilize the funds we receive from the insurance on the building to move forward to help with the exterior beautification of the building.
Well, that might be premature, given we don't know what we want to do with the building. So that may not be efficient use of our funds. So that's why a decision on the direction is utmost important. Once we've got that decision, the response to, removing the board, replacing the windows, all of that will be dictated by that decision. So let's focus on that so we know where it is that we're going. And if we can incorporate this issue in the strategic planning discussion as well with our consultant, just to you never know what ideas or suggestions he may have and what experiences he may have had from other cities. So can we get some feedback from him regarding that?
Absolutely, and that feedback is helpful, especially when we're talking to our constituents in reference to beautifying the building, but I will definitely work with our building operations department and general service just to make sure that we beautify the landscaping.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Heath?
If I'm not mistaken, when we got the property from Fulton County, it was an understanding there were just certain things that we could do with the property, and I think one of those was just to fix it up as a historic building. Is that true?
I'm not aware of those regulations.
Councilman Heath, I'm not aware of any limitations or other agreements with the county on how the city could use it. Now that several years ago, as you know, it is owned by the city of Fairburn. I think it is up to the elected officials to make that decision as to what it would entail once, as Councilwoman Portis Jones said, there's a decision on direction. And very quickly, as it relates to any temporary measures, we've done some things to secure the integrity of the building as a result of the fire, but any other steps would also need to be considered under the fact that it is a historic building. And so when you do anything to a historic building, it's a different path than a standard building. So even something as simple as putting in windows is a different process in a historic building. The type
And more
of window,
expensive.
more expensive. And so just wanted to add that into any short-term considerations. And to your point about efficient use of money, until we really know what the council wants us to do with the building, it kind of leaves us in a holding pattern because we don't want to spend money on any steps and then when the decision is made, find out that that money isn't useful for the final intended purpose.
Oh, the other thing that was said, though, was about safety. Can we just make sure?
Yes.
That's it, safety?
Absolutely. Integrity of the structure,
Still has to-
preventing,
Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to add
No, but he
safety.
still has to-
integrity of the structure and safety, we will do that. In regard, that's already been done. Yeah, it's sealed, there's no water getting in, it's boarded up. So all that work has been done, right?
Mr. Heath, you still have to.
But the other thing that I understood was when we got that property, that there were certain stipulations that we inherited once we got that property, that it could not be used for certain things, and didn't we pay like $10 for it or something from Fulton?
It was a nominal amount at the time, and
It
we'll
was
go
very-
back and
very-
see if there are
very
any
nominal.
records that the city clerk may have that speaks to that. I'm not aware in this conversation, Councilman Heath, that there's any restrictions on the use of the building or the property, but we'll certainly go back to when that transaction took place.
Please do, because
and see if there's something.
seemingly, I think, I remember reading the document that once we got the property, that there were certain things that, it originally was a courthouse that was in Campbell County, which dissolved, I think, in the 1930s, and Fairburn was the town seat for that. And but like I say, being a historic building and everything, it seems like there was something in there that I remember reading that we could only use it for certain things. Thank you.
Okay. And then, go ahead.
No, I
You
don't.
had a question, Mr.
Just
Heath?
real briefly, quick.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen, we have a lot of irons in the fire, and it seems like the work that we're doing are overlapping. We just had Leader Gov here, and we have the individuals with the comp plan. What we don't want to do is put ourselves in a tizzy where we have all of these major projects happening at one time, and we're engaging our community. They can get confused about the comp plan and then the strategic plan. Now you got the Campbell Courthouse. You had a lot of data that you took, which was really good. What I would suggest, strong suggestion, is to see how these projects and the need to get more information can be best gotten from those players who are in place right now with Fairburn, with all of the reports and the data that's being collected, so we can get the biggest bang for our buck and get this done. Thank you.
And so what I'm sorry, Ms. Davis, you had?
Oh, no.
Okay. The only comment I was going to make, members of council, because of in this case, as someone brought up about grant money and stuff like that, in this case, when you start dealing with procurement, federal money, there's specific guidelines that you have to deal with, and as the city administrator mentioned it, before you get pouring money into a project, and not quite sure what the funding source is, the majority funding source. If it's federal money, it brings another whole ball game. And I sat through a workshop, actually, myself and a person director, regarding historic buildings. And I don't know the way to put it. It's more of a headache than you think. Trust me, for the government. I want to use an adjective, but I can't. Okay. And so, but with that being said, members of council, it's 7 o'clock on the nose. We're going to go straight into our council meeting. Ms. James, you can go ahead and bring our meeting to order.
Okay. The Honorable Mayor Pro Tem Alex Heath.
Present.
The Honorable Linda J. Davis.
Present.
The Honorable Hattie Portis Jones.
Present.
The Honorable Samantha Hudson.
Present.
The Honorable Ulysses J. Smallwood.
Absent.
Honorable James Whitmore.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, if you will, if everyone that can you please stand, and Pastor Boone from Crosswords Church, please come forward, sir.
Let's pray. Father, we come before you in the precious name of your Son. We ask, Father, that you guide this council as they are bombarded with ideas and governance. I pray that you'll protect them personally and their families as they minister in their capacity as elected officials to this community. Surround Fairburn with your warm embrace. Enable Fairburn to be all you've designed her to be. Enact within this body the capacity to see beyond what we, our own personal selves, and see what's best for this community. We thank you for all you've done. What an incredible place this is. It's in the name of the Father, his Son, and the Spirit we pray. Amen.
Thank you. At this point, presentation, excuse me, adoption of the city council. Members of council, you have before you the city council agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, before we go on, can you tell me, Michael, which attorney is on? Serena is on. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. At this point, we have a presentation of Mr. Wayne Lester.
Lassiter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good
Good evening.
We're here tonight because we're honoring this man next to me, Mr. Wayne Lassiter. If you are familiar with our Blue Light Christmas program, every December the police department takes some of our local kids and families shopping. They take them Christmas shopping, really spend the whole morning of it. We have breakfast. It's a very important event that we do every year. It's about community building, community policing. And that program doesn't just happen by itself. It takes a lot of work and to get that running. It also takes a lot of funding, and that's why we are here tonight. Mr. Wayne Lassiter has been supporting the Blue Light Christmas program for years. He has single-handedly raised tens of thousands of dollars for this program that has gone straight to local Fairburn families. Which is why we are here to honor him tonight. Mayor and Council will let me, I would like to read the award that we're presenting him with. With our greatest appreciation, we hereby present Wayne Lassiter for your tireless efforts and unwavering support to the Fairburn Police Department over the years. Your dedication, ongoing commitments, and selflessness have made a lasting impact on the community. Mr. Lassiter has been a Fairburn resident for over 30 years. He's with his family, his wife, his 2 sons, and he's got a baby granddaughter.
Sir, you go. Mr. Lassiter, Mr. Lassiter, we're going to come down and shake his hand if you don't mind.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, buddy.
Excuse me, Chief.
Brenda, how many speakers we got? Two, okay. All right, we'll let him take a seat. Okay. All right, members of public, we're going to get to our public comment portion of our meeting. 30 minutes will be allocated for public comments. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. However, a speaker may transfer his or her 3 minutes to another speaker, but no speaker shall be permitted to speak for more than 6 minutes. In this case, we have 2 speakers. So in this case, issues raised at this time are generally referred to the city administrator for review, and responses will be conveyed at a later date. Would you go ahead and call our first speaker?
Mr. Ernie Brooks.
Mr. Brooks.
Hey, y'all, being a boomer and a geezer, I just wanted to say that being low-tech, I tried to step my game up, and I took some pictures and downloaded them to a thumb drive, and unfortunately, I'm not allowed to show them to you, because if I were to show you some pictures, everybody else would have the opportunity to show you some pictures, and that was from the tech guy to the assistant of the city administrator, to the clerk, to the mayor, ping pong back and forth, and it was decided, no, you can't do that. So please put your mind where we're at in Fairburn at Cole Street and 29. In November the 15th of 2023, there was a bad accident. It took out the pedestrian hand signal and the bench. Well, they replaced the bench. I had a picture of it, and they didn't replace the cable. There's an electric cable, and it sticks up. The base of the signal is sticking up. It's a trip hazard. It's been that way since November the 15th, 2000. A picture's worth 1,000 words. If I could have showed you that, we could walk together. Coming down 29, on the right-hand side is the old Fairburn Cemetery. Someone or something, it looks like a truck, has run off, and to show you some of the headstones, the names on them are Brooks. So just to share with you, if you're missing where the truck or the vehicle ran off and hit the tombstones and destroyed the marble structure, it's so obvious in your face you can't miss it. But my understanding is the city has a special trust fund, and Mr. Phillips, if you could, there's a special trust fund to maintain the city cemetery, and if you could cut some money and get a crew to straighten that up, that'd be great. Going on down 29, when you get to John Rivers Road, the city has a big solar panel, and I think it operates one of those traffic cameras that reads your, there was a pine tree leaning, and someone actually must have had a work order, because they cut the tree, left the tree leaning, and what they cut has fallen onto the solar panel. It's been that way for a while. Wow. My last point is, CSX, they've got gravel dumped out, and they're coming sooner or later, they're going to be back to replace the railroad ties. And I had some really nice pictures of the debris. And it's not just in Fairburn. It's all up and down. And this railroad's been here since the 1800s, mid-1800s. And it's like, for the first time ever, they've come through and they just pile their junk up. If they don't want it, they could get it for free sign. And the community would take it and utilize it. But it's a hazard, because I had a really nice picture of a tree. It had to be 5 years old growing up. Yeah, it's sticking out in the road. I see. You see that too over there by? Oh, you're saying wrap it up, wrap it up?
Yes, sir.
I'm over 3 minutes. Well, could I get a motion from the chair for a special privilege to?
No, sir. I appreciate you.
I can't. Well, I appreciate the sense of
Thank you,
humor.
sir.
I just want to say, get well soon. I can hear in your voice, Mr. Mayor. You getting over something. I hope it ain't the bird flu.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Next speaker is Jamila Mathis.
Miller. She wasn't there?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
She signed the form. That's
okay.
it then.
All right, thank you so much. At this point, members of council, you have before you the city council minutes that commenced on January the 27th, 2025. Is there a motion? Approve.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, we're going to, go ahead, Ms. James, we're going to have a
First item
public hearing.
is a public hearing. It's a comprehensive plan.
Hi, I'm just going to take a moment to say hello again and give the floor to our consultant who has a presentation regarding the comprehensive plan.
Hi, thanks, Denise.
So I have a question, Denise. Is that in the first 30 minutes, or is that just a presentation? Because the public hearing, is it the same public hearing where it's 30 minutes for and 30 minutes a guest? So is this in the first 30 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. So you need to start the 30-minute clock. Well, he needs to open the
Well, in this case,
floor.
okay, in this case, I guess technically I need to, in this case, members of council, can I entertain a motion to open a public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, we will hear from the people here that are in support. I guess, is that what I'm going to do at this time? Okay, in this case, go ahead, ma'am.
Oh, thank you all very much. Mayor and council, my name is Allison Senyard. I represent TSW. We're the prime consultant hired to work on your comprehensive plan. I was here last week, and I was very moved by the community support that came out, I guess, against various things that you had on your agenda, but it was very eye-opening as the consultant to understand kind of what we're getting into working with the city of Fairburn. And I will say I'm very pleased to see a council that does stick to its comprehensive plan, and I don't see that every day. So my hat's off to you and to this community. So my objective here tonight, a couple of things. Number one, introduce our team, have y'all get to know us a little bit, but mainly I'm here to help y'all answer the question, what is a comprehensive plan? I mean, if you were here a couple weeks ago, that phrase kept coming up a lot, comprehensive plan, comprehensive plan. So I'm gonna explain to those in the room who may not be totally familiar what a comprehensive plan is, what it is, and what does it do for this community. After that, I'm going to explain the planning process and some of the items we will be working on throughout that process, and then I will cede the rest of my time to give the community an opportunity to give input and some initial ideas on the comprehensive plan. So like I said, I'm Allison Senyard. I represent TSW. We're the prime consultant. What we'll be working on primarily is helping create a future land use strategy, a transportation strategy, and also doing what we're calling a zoning audit. So essentially looking through your zoning ordinance, gonna make some suggestions for some things you can do just to kind of help the code overall, but mainly what we'll be doing is ensuring that the code aligns with the recommendations that come out of the comprehensive plan. We're also teaming up with KB Advisory Group. If that name sounds familiar, it should. They worked on y'all's economic development strategic plan, so we're really thrilled to be working with them. They have so much knowledge of this area, and they've been extremely helpful to us so far. So they'll be advising us on the housing and the economic development components of the comprehensive plan. Okay, so what's a comprehensive plan? A comprehensive plan is a guiding document that outlines a city's long-term vision for land development. We try to answer three big questions with these documents. Number one, where are we now as a community? So we're gonna look at things like demographics. We're gonna look at the real estate market. We're gonna look at the land use mix, the transportation network, all of these things. And where are we with that? The next question is, where do we wanna go? What is the vision that we want for our future? What do we want the land use mix to look like? What kind of housing do we want? Are there any big transportation network fixes that we need to make? Things like that. And then lastly, how do we get there? And I would say this is arguably the most important part of the comprehensive plan. At least TSW stands, we believe in creating plans that are implementable. So what we'll be doing as part of that process is, once we have a vision established, we'll be helping create a step-by-step plan for the city to follow to help them get there. So, like I said, comprehensive plans are there to help guide the future land use and development decisions in Fairburn. That is their role within the city. Now, what's also great about a comprehensive plan is that while things like housing and transportation, stormwater, infrastructure, natural resources, they may not be big focuses for the plan, but the comprehensive plan will help provide some policy direction, especially as it relates to land development. So we'll be exploring some of those topics in a little bit of detail. What's great is the city has done so much planning work over the last 5-10 years, so we have a lot to go on, which is fantastic. So we're not going to be totally reinventing the wheel, but really looking at the different wheels you've created and helping build a car that's going to get you to your final destination. All right, so why do we do these plans? Number one, it is required by the state of Georgia. And required is kind of a heavy word for what it is, but the Georgia Department of Community Affairs has a status called the Qualified Local Government Status. And really what that means is any community in Georgia, city or county government, if they complete their comprehensive plan, they keep it updated, they do their capital improvement elements and all the things they ask for. If you do all that every 5 years, they grant you this Qualified Local Government Status, which just makes you eligible for funding like CDBG grants, any economic development initiatives. So you have access to all this money. Good reason to plan, just other than the other reasons I'm gonna list out. Number two, you don't know where you're going if you don't have a plan. So, think of the comprehensive plan as a bit of a roadmap. You are here, here's the future. Now, how do you get there? So the plan is going to kind of break down the vision and also talk step by step, how do we get there? Another important reason is that things change. Things change all the time. There's also a lot of things we just can't anticipate. Like COVID-19, we could not have anticipated that. That's a good example. But really looking at, regional and local trends, even things happening at the national level, they are going to impact everything that happens in your community, especially as it relates to the needs and opportunities for development. So what comprehensive plans do a good job of doing is providing guidance to how as a community do we respond to these changing circumstances. It's also a good reason why we want to update our plans every few years to account for those changes. And I think this is the most important reason why we do these plans. It's really to have a record of what the community's vision is. It's what does the community support? Again, when I was here a couple weeks ago, y'all heard loud and clear. These are all the things the community does support. These are all the things the community does not support. And you as a council, you heard that feedback and were able to make a recommendation of, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And that comprehensive plan that you all have right now is a reflection of what the community wants. So, things might change over time, but it's really important that we continue to have a record of what the community will support. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the planning process we're about to undergo. Take a couple minutes to talk about our scope. So one of the big things we'll be doing is taking inventory of what the city has been able to accomplish since the last comprehensive plan was adopted in 2020. You guys have done a lot, so that's really good news for us. So as consultants, what we'll be doing is taking some of the things maybe you haven't done, deciding if those are things we still think are important. We still want to do those things, but it's also exciting for us to see a community that actually implements their plans, because it just really opens the door for the possibilities of what is the next step? What could you do next? Another thing we'll be doing is updating the future land use strategy. So, again, you were here a couple weeks ago and you heard all these people talking about the comprehensive plan and the future land use. We're going to be working with the city to take a look at what your strategy is today, figure out what's working, maybe what's not so working so well, and make some necessary updates. Like I alluded to earlier, we're going to be looking at your zoning ordinance. We're going to do a quick audit. We're going to make some recommendations to make it align better with the recommendations that will come out of the plan. And like I mentioned, y'all have been doing some really good planning work. So we really want to make sure that the plan is reflective of the results of all of these studies, and making sure that we are taking everything that you have been recommending over the past few years and making sure it's reflected in your comprehensive plan. Creating a work program and action plan to implement the vision. Now, the community work program is something that is required by DCA for you to do as part of your comprehensive plan. But it is a really important part, because that is that roadmap that's going to get you to where you want to go in the future. And most importantly, we want to get input on the community on what they want to see for Fairburn's future. I'm not a resident of Fairburn. This is not my plan. This is your plan. You live here, you work here, you know this place much better than I do. So we really want to make sure that we listen to the community and make sure that we understand what they want to see for the future. I'm actually going to skip this slide because I think this one does a much better job of going through the process. So right now we're still very much in the very beginning of our the comprehensive plan process. So we have 4 phases you'll see on the screen. Right now, we're very solidly in that research and analysis phase, so we're still getting to know Fairburn a little bit. We have read through all the plans you've done. We've done some mapping. We've done some number crunching. We've been doing all of that. Now, part of this process is that research analysis coming here, hearing from anyone present tonight about their ideas about the city. And we're also gonna have a planning workshop at the end of this month. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that's gonna really help us understand that, the community aspect of it. I mean, we can crunch numbers all day long. I can look at maps all day long, but getting the community's feedback and getting their ideas at the beginning of the process is what really helps make that research and analysis make it more meaningful for us. Starting in the spring, we're going to be kind of rolling into what we're calling plan development. So we're going to be actively taking what we learned in that last phase and trying to create some recommendations. It'll be very much in a very draft phase. So we're going to be throwing ideas to the community, seeing what y'all think. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do we need to go back to work? Do we need to go back to the drawing board? So that's going to be a really important phase for us. And then in the later summer, going to early fall, we'll be reviewing and refining that plan. So we'll be doing, I'll be coming back here in front of council. I'll be presenting the plan, our recommendations to this community, getting your feedback once again. And then we'll be kicking off a public review period where we're gonna post the plan online and we're gonna give the community 30 days to take a look, read through it, and let us know, did we get it right? Do we need to, again, go back to the drawing board and on some ideas? And then we're hoping to get this plan adopted by the end of October. You have a deadline from DCA of October 31st, 2025. So I think we're gonna come back, I think it's the 27th of October, and I'll be here to present the plan again, and hopefully it will be adopted by this council. I'm gonna talk a little bit about engagement, as that's really important. The goals for our engagement are pretty simple. We wanna reach as many people as possible. That's really what it comes down to. But we want to make sure not only are we reaching people, but we are making sure that we have accessible engagement and outreach, that we can not only reach these people, but we're reaching them in the way that they prefer to be reached. So whether that's online, some posting flyers around town, and then while people are at the meeting, making sure we have a good variety of activities to get the feedback we're looking for, but also respecting the city's values as far as engagement goes. So real quick, let me talk about a few opportunities to give input. First of all, tonight, anyone present here, we would love to hear, I'm just here to listen, so any ideas you may have about the future, I want to hear them. If there are things you love about Fairburn, I want to hear them. There's things you don't love about Fairburn, I also want to hear those too. We also have a website. It just launched as of last week, fairburncompplan.com. We kept the URL very simple. If you go there, there's some info. It's still a very basic website, but it does have all of our public meeting dates on there already. It will eventually have our online survey. As we go through the planning process, there will be activities posted online for people to do, so we can keep the conversations going outside of the public meetings. Our first public workshop will be on February 27th at 6 p.m. at the City Hall Annex. I invite everyone here tonight, either here in the room tonight or watching online, please come. We have a number of activities planned where we're gonna be talking about primarily is needs and opportunities in Fairburn. So we're gonna be talking about what we've learned so far, getting some confirmation from the public, but also getting some more input of what are the real needs and opportunities that we can address with this comprehensive plan. So like I said, we welcome any feedback from the community present tonight. I'll come back to that slide in just a second, but right there on the left, that is my email address. If you have any questions, you have comments, you are welcome to reach out to me. So Allison Senior, TSW, that is my email. You can also reach Denise at City of Fairburn. She will also answer any questions that I might not be able to answer. So like I said, I encourage y'all to reach out if you have any questions at all. Thank y'all very much. I'm gonna go back to this slide.
So right now, my public hearing is still open. So in this case, is there anyone here that wish to speak in support of this effort or initiative by the city? Any resident that's here?
I can go sit down and give someone the floor.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up, sir.
Hey, I'm James Lassiter. I live off Bohannon Road. So so you said you have the website up. All right, so what are some deadlines on some of the actions that we can do on there as residents?
Speaking to the mic, sir, so that we can.
Okay. What are some of the dates, and can we have like deadlines planned out so far? When the website's gonna be more up?
Yeah, it's up, it's active, all the dates are on there for public engagement. Now, as we go through the process, we'll post more stuff. It's just, we're just in the very beginning, so there's not a whole lot on the website, but at least we have the dates up for you. And we'll put the online survey there at the end of the month for the project.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Please come up.
Good evening, Council.
Good
evening.
Ray Freeman, live on Malone Circle. How much is this costing the taxpayers?
Go ahead. You want?
I believe we were approved in this current budget, the total cost for the zoning audit and the comprehensive plan is $150,000, I believe. That's significantly lower than some other communities that I've seen. So typically, local governments can either do it in-house with ARC, but that means that you cannot have as much community engagement as we're doing. And because we also need that zoning audit, that's why we have the budget allocated for this. And it was approved by council.
Is anyone else? Come on up, sir.
In my past, I dealt with many consultants, and please, no disrespect, young lady. We had a term, consultants mean someone who will con you and then insult you. Now, $150,000, I hope we get our money's worth and we have a good turnout and participate in this opportunity where, as you know, 39% of our residents don't even know about homestead exemption. So that's just a point I wanted to make, and also to make a comment to Brother Heath. You're right, there's a video online with Elizabeth Hurst, former mayor, and the cost of the courthouse, best of my recollection, was $1. And the video was her receiving a big check at the courthouse steps. So.
Hold up, sir. I think you're.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's not germane to the subject. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
And this is a mandate from DCA, so every local government has to go through this process. Every local government has to have, some local governments do the minimum, but based on the consensus I've got from council is that you all really want us to be able to go out to the community and look at our comprehensive plan and make sure that everything we're doing from a land use perspective is completely aligned with the community. And of course, this is a state mandate, so we have to get this done.
Correct. Is there anyone else, any resident that wish to speak in support of this project? Go ahead, sir.
City Councilman.
Good afternoon.
The comprehensive plan for Fairburn has been a great idea, and we've stuck to it like we said, the lady said before, the meeting before, and it's a very good way of knowing what the people. My concern is making sure that we know and get this out to the young people, the millennials, the Gen X's and all those, because that's a large portion of, and we are trying to get the technical people and all the people in the city and the new people in. But the last one that I was in with there was not a large variety of people that was at when we did that workshop before. So we need to get a way of finding out to get the pulse of the people out, not the people. I know we had a lot of people at the city council meeting 2 weeks ago, but that's not the pulse of Fairburn right now. It's changed. Thank you.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Sorry. Thomas Cochran,
Thank you.
467 Fowler League Way.
Anyone else wish to speak? Go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Come on back up.
I think Ms. Cochran made an excellent point about making sure that every single millennial, boomers, whomever is living in Fairburn has an opportunity to engage and be a part of the process. Of course, we will also have a steering committee, and there will be quite a few opportunities for members of the general public to have some sort of say-so in the process. We will be working with our communications department. They've looked at the public participation plan. They will be a part of it. All the information and the meetings and events will be on the website, so we'll be sure to get the word out. And from all of the somewhat controversial public hearings we've had, we have a pretty good idea of who the people to reach out to in the community to really get the word out as well. So we will do a great process, I believe, of really getting out there. I think the folks that were here at the last public hearing were really passionate about the plan, but also passionate about making sure that they understand every single element and having an opportunity to speak to what's going on directly in their neighborhood. So we will be doing a lot more of the community input, neighborhood meetings, all that kind of good stuff. So.
Okay. Is there someone here that wishes to speak in opposition to this process? Seeing none, can I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Mr. Jones and second by Mr. Heath. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. And members of council, in this case, you, excuse me, you have before you a
It's just a public hearing.
Oh, okay, well, in this case, I had a couple of council folk that had questions. In this case, Ms. Davis had a question. Go ahead.
Well, I have a statement really in reference to the engagement with the younger people, the millennials, whatever. We have a youth council, a youth leadership council, a outstanding youth leadership council. Can we get them engaged in helping get their peers to come and share their voices in reference to the comp plan? That would be one way of getting the younger people in and focused.
Great idea.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones, go ahead.
Yes, so relative to the question on how much this study will cost, the $150,000, wanted to just reiterate that this also includes a review of our zoning to ensure that we are updating the zoning. This past year, we've done several zoning amendments because of various requests that have come in or things that have happened that we had not addressed it in our zoning ordinance. So it is extremely important that we have a review of the zoning ordinance. And the more frequently we can do that, the better off we are, because that helps us to be consistent with the comprehensive plan that we decide upon. So I wanted to stress that. And then I also wanted to stress that having this plan in place, as Ms. Brookins has said, allows us to receive grant dollars or other governmental funding dollars that help us with the projects. For instance, CDBG, which is very, very important, and it has been a source of fund that the city of Fairburn has been successful in acquiring from the county, and using those dollars for some fantastic projects, with the latest being the walkway in the Lightning area. So tell me, yes, what's it called? Yes, the Go Lighting Rain Garden. And several residents came up and spoke about how appreciative they are of that and what an enhancement it is for the community. And so we've used a lot of CDGB funds for projects like that, including a park in the Lightning area. So Lightning of today is not Lightning of 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 25 years ago. It is a very desirable community because of the small things that this city has been able to do to enhance it, to make it a quality of life. And so I wanted to make sure that people understand, yes, we're spending money on this, and we have to plan and to have a plan in place in order to go after other dollars that are available to us. It is about leveraging the monies that we have in our budget with dollars that we can receive from other sources. And this is a prime example of our ability to do that. So I just wanted to make sure that I just reminded us of why we're needing to do this, why we're spending the funds for it, and how we're leveraging those monies with other funds for various projects in our community.
Any other member of council? Well, only thing I'm going to add to that in this case is as it relates to the zoning, being that, you know, most of us are aware of several litigation cases that we've had, substantial litigation cases whereby the zoning just wasn't in place. Nobody's fault. It's just that in a couple of scenarios, we never crossed that bridge as long as I've been here. And the same thing's going to happen 10 years from now. So now, as a result of us actually basically being upfront and actually forward thinking, and I want to actually thank, in this case, I want to thank Ms. Brookins in particular. I want to also thank our previous planning and zoning director, Ms. Tarika Peaks, who was actually brought a wealth of experience from Fulton County government, planning and zoning department, and in the efforts to a lot of the hurdles that we would have crossed if her expertise had not been in place as it relates to our government. And so again, this is, again, as Mr. Jones has stated, we're actually, in this case, simply trying to get in preparation of what's, with all the future growth that's going to happen. Ms. Jones, you mentioned it last meeting, housing is imperative in this case. I mean, it's a shortage beyond belief, and we're no different than any other city in this case, especially in this case now that we've got massive infrastructure development, i.e. I-85, and then in this case, all the transportation that's down in Peachtree City that's going to be coming through Fairburn. So it's going to be important that our zoning is impeccable, because we're going to probably get tried in ways we never imagined. And from a legal perspective, if Valerie Ross was here, she would probably be singing my praise for saying that, because she's going to be the one defending it. And so, but yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I also want to suggest if you could just have a conversation with the strategic planning consultant, right? Because we talked about the comprehensive plan in developing the strategic plan. And as Councilwoman Hudson stated, you know, we are, many of these are running parallel. It's the same people, it's about the same conversation. So to the extent that we can coordinate that and that we're all on the same page would be great.
And one other comment, Ms. Davis, I think, came up with a great idea about our youth council. Actually, coincidentally, two of our youth councils got an award at Fulton County Board of Commissioners meeting last week. They're actually part of both, and so the gentleman actually served as the mayor and another young lady, me. And so our youth council is very involved, and I think that's a great idea. The other avenue is we've got a very active senior citizen cadre in our city right now. Miss Honey, if she was here, she would sing the praises about this, because I think we've got seniors that are really engaged as relates to what we're doing. And again, as mentioned earlier, between Generation X, Z, T, all the different. And so it's just, in this case, I think is a great opportunity for us. And I don't know to what degree this can be done. In this case, our youth council will actually help us in this case. I was thinking about a lot of the things we do with the school. Pastor Maya, in this case, with our youth council, and then they're really deep, open word Christian, really deep into the youth. I'm really anxious in this case to also hear the voices of the youth, along with our. But there's a segment that, and I have an idea how to do it, but I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to say it. There's a college age group that's in our city. I know because if you ride down by GMC during the day, a lot of those older college students are older, but a lot of them are actually college student age. And so that's a market, I think, that I would love for us to just to make sure that we tap, as since we're in this case, we're trying to acquire a market for all these different comprehensive plans and different things. So with that being said, does any other member of the council have any other comment on this item? Okay, seeing none. Okay, next item.
The next item is intergovernment agreement with Fayette County government It is a request for mayor and council approval on the intergovernmental agreement between the city of Fairburn and Fayette County, Georgia for water supply.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, members of council and the mayor. This IGA that is before you this evening is to capture a water supply project to allow both Fayette County and the city of Fairburn to provide potable water to their residents and businesses within their respective jurisdictions. As you are aware from several conversations we've had over the last several years, Fairburn has experienced a number of challenges with our water supply, both in terms of volume and in terms of pressure. Our current sole source of water is Atlanta Watershed Management. That is coupled with the growth of the city, and that results in increasing water needs. Back in March of last year, as you may recall, at the annual mayor and council retreat, we had a detailed discussion about the opportunity to enter into a discussion with Fayette County government, who borders the city on our southwestern border, to develop an IGA that would produce a collaborative water project and help augment our current water supply. So the direction we received from you at that retreat was to move forward with that discussion. We have done that, and over the last 10 months, those discussions and legal reviews by both Fairburn and Fayette County legal staff has resulted in the IGA that is before you for consideration this evening. Just a couple of highlights from the IGA, and then we have both our engineering consultant, Integrated Science and Engineering, and our primary engineering consultant, Carrie Dial, with us this evening, as well as Ms. Vanessa Tigert, who is the director of the Fayette County Water System. And I want to pause to thank her and Steve Rapson, the county manager. They've been really wonderful to work with through this process. Just a couple of highlights from the agreement. The county, under this IGA, will agree to include the needed infrastructure to connect to the city of Fairburn's water system at the border I mentioned earlier, which is near Thompson Road and Highway 74. That is the connection area. And it will also include, and this came up in a different context at our last meeting, it will also, this particular project, include a 1 million gallon elevated storage tank. This agreement essentially frames that an average annual volume of 1.5 MGD, million gallons per day, is the amount of water that is proposed under this agreement with a peak daily flow rate of 2.25 MGD. The city shall provide the line extension and any associated infrastructure in order to connect to the system at Fayette County. You may recall recently you approved a 2024 bond in order for us to fund this project. So the funding is in place via that bond. The city shall pay 1/3 of the cost of installing that 1 million gallon elevated storage tank. The county and another entity will pay 2/3 of the cost of that elevated storage tanks. Our contribution specifically to the storage tank under this IGA, if approved, is capped at $2.5 million. That is the most that the city will be obligated to contribute to the elevated water tank. That project and the entire connection process will move forward into final design and ultimate procurement if approved by council, so that we can then nail down specific cost. These are cost projections at this stage because we have not put a final design in place until we get approval from council to move forward. The county has agreed, Fayette County, to provide water at the wholesale rate. For context, currently our agreement with Atlanta is for $4.98 per 1,000 gallons. I think the current rate in Fayette County is $2.68. Now, they've already told us that is going to increase in the near future, and so we'll wait to see where that number ends up. Oh, okay.
You want to stand up, ma'am?
Okay.
Ma'am, you want to?
Still, okay, Ms. Tiger, you can come on up to the podium. They couldn't hear you.
I can't hear you, man. You need to speak into it.
That rate did go up, and it's still less than $3. I do believe it's $2.80.
Thank you. So that is the wholesale rate as compared to $4.98 is what we're currently paying. And so it is a financially feasible operation for us to secure this additional source of water. This will not replace the water we get from Atlanta. It will augment that. All right, and so just wanted to make that clear. This agreement is for an initial term of 5 years, and it does not automatically renew. Either party, within 90 days of the expiration of the initial period, has to indicate a desire to keep the agreement going, and then the responding party has 10 days to respond. If all agree, then each renewal subsequently after the initial 5-year period is 1 year at a time. And so both the county and the city would have to agree to continue this agreement moving forward, 1 year at a time. And it caps at a maximum of 50 years. So let me recap that. The initial term is for 5 years. At that point, either entity can provide notice within 90 days of the end of that 5-year period of a desire to continue. If both parties agree, we do so each subsequent year, and the maximum term is 50 years. With that, I wanted to pause and invite Carrie Dial, who is our lead engineer from Integrated Science and Engineering. We have a map that kind of depicts the basic concepts of the water system that we are proposing to connect to Fayette County's supply. And Carrie, if you could come forward to the podium and kind of give an overview of what this connection will look like.
Yes, so if you can see on the map, is it possible to scroll down? Here we go. All right, so Fayette County's water system extends up to Thompson Road, which is about 2,500 feet from Fairburn. Fayette County would be putting in an elevated tank, and we would be receiving water from that elevated tank, and then we'll put in a booster pump station that you can see there is the red block, and pump it up to Meadow Glen Parkway. And there's a existing 10-inch line that runs through Meadow Glen Parkway, and then at the end, we would extend it to Oakley, which then gets the water over to Bohannon and up into the city of Fairburn. Bohannon obviously is a industrial area. It experiences low water pressure, and we feel like this is going to help with that. So this is a win-win. You know, as an engineer, I'd tell you if this was a bad idea. This is a great idea.
Great.
Yeah.
So in summary, this will provide additional volume and pressure to augment Fairburn's water supply. And we have proposed this IGA. We've worked collaboratively with our partners in Fayette County and are proffering this evening for council's consideration with a staff recommendation for approval.
Members of council, you have before you the item read in a for IGA agreement with Fayette County government. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. Any questions by council?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Jones.
This is exciting, the fact that we will have an additional water source. So I'm glad to know that we've gotten to this point. Couple questions regarding the agreement. The city of Fairburn will pay 1/3 of the cost for the storage tank. Is that correct?
Yes.
And who is the owner and operator of the storage tank?
Fayette County.
All right, and so Fayette County will maintain that. Any issues with it, they will maintain.
Yes.
Okay. Then our agreement is for 5 years?
The initial term.
Initial terms, all right. Why 5 years? Is that because of the initial cost? Or are there other reasons why 5 years is the magic number for the agreement?
So after having the conversations we've had over the last 10 months, it was settled as an initial 5-year term to allow one for the project to be put in place and to ensure all parties were comfortable with where we are, and then to have the renewal options moving forward. Clearly, it can go beyond 5 years, but it gives each entity an opportunity to kind of check in at that initial 5-year term. I will also tell you that water dynamics are changing pretty dramatically across the region. And so I think that's another reason why we wanted an initial 5-year term. It has the long-term term of up to 50 years. We just initially started with a 5-year term.
I'll be dead.
All right.
You still got the floor. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know if you guys heard that or not, but it's always a little unnerving. Okay. Yeah, I think, yes, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Hudson and then Mr. Heath.
I didn't have any questions for him. One of the, I always said that we needed another water source. But what we at Fairburn have to consider is the financial obligation with the water authority and spending money for this water source. And we don't have the information that we asked a year ago from our attorney about what our obligations was. I know Mr. Phillips did update us and let us know in email that we did not have a locked-in contract. But what we can't responsibly do is move into spending millions of taxpayer money to secure this water deal with Fed, and we still have 1.2 million a year going out the door to the water authority. So we gotta make a decision. So we have three things on the table. We have Atlanta, we have the water authority, and now we have Fayette County. Okay, I met with, well, just briefly, with the wonderful mayor and the city council member, and for Fed, it's a great deal. They get to sell a whole lot of water and do some great business with that, just like we need to look at selling all this energy we got. So in terms of what I support it, but we can't move forward until we settle the deal with this water authority, because what we don't want to happen is to overextend our financial commitment with taxpayer dollars. So we have to make a decision soon, because we have an authority that is proposing that we give them 50 more years of indebtedness of a tax dollar, and $1.1 million has gone for the last 24, 25 years, and we're no further other than a permit to pull the water with no site. There's things that we need to discuss. So responsibly, we have to move on this. I want Mr. Phillips to know I don't abort your efforts, but I will not vote to secure this with the water authority on the table. That's just not responsible. I'm not calling you irresponsible. I'm saying, as a councilwoman, as the person that y'all elected, that fiduciary responsibility means that we have to take care of the indebtedness with the water authority, then move forward with the Fayetteville. And for lack of, not even looking at this, shoot, we should have been with Fayetteville like 20 years ago. I mean, it made a lot of sense as he presented there. And then with the distance in between, how we would be able to connect the water sources together. It's like, hey, we're married now, right? But we can't get there until we actually do our business with the Middle Chattahoochee Water Authority. That's where I stand with this.
Yes,
Y'all got my support, but I'm not voting on this until we get out of the debt or whatever. Know what we got going forward with the Water Authority. We inherited this debt. It's the responsibility of us to pay on this debt, but not create any more new debt, because anything new should be adding resources to Fairburn citizens and not taking away with a guesstimation in 50 years. I'll be here still. In 50 years, that we'll possibly get a drop of clean water. Nah, that's it.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Heath?
Well, the question I have is, what are we gonna do with the water authority? Because even if we withdraw, it's my understanding that we still send them like $1.1 million a year. Is that correct?
So the $1.1 million a year is as a result of a bond issue that the Water Authority, I think, initially took out, if memory serves correct, in 2014. And then, and don't quote me on that, I'll go back, but it was a number of years ago. So that's servicing that $40 million bond that the Water Authority took out over a decade ago.
Right.
Per the city attorney, what we are obligated to long-term is the debt the city agreed to at that time. So if we left the Water Authority today, you would still legally, the city of Fairburn, be responsible for that $1.1 million that was incurred over a decade ago.
Mm.
Currently, the Water Authority does not send any water to Fairburn. It has no means to send any water to Fairburn. And as we discussed, or as was presented at the last work session, there is a plan in place, and we will defer to the council about your views on that plan. This is not the first plan the Water Authority has had in place. It's been in existence for 24 years. The reason we took your direction to get in place with Fayette County is the current needs of the city are significant. And from an engineering and a source perspective, we don't have another 5 years to try to figure out how do we keep from having these low pressure events, keep from having our industrial partners questioning whether or not they have adequate fire protection because of these water issues. And so we kind of discussed some of this at the retreat. So the 1.1 million in debt is there. It's budgeted each year in the enterprise fund for utilities, which is where we do our water service. So it's not in the general fund, it's in the enterprise fund. So that will have to be a discussion, I agree, moving forward. As it relates to providing potable water for the city's needs today, this is not only the most viable and cost-effective way to do that, it is literally the only option the city has to augment our water supply currently. Now, if the Water Authority moves forward, we can have that discussion and take direction from the council as how you would like us to proceed on that. But that issue currently doesn't supply any water to the city and has not in its 24-year existence.
Well, that was the thing I was thinking about is that for 24 years, they've been working on this. Originally, it was a Bear Creek Reservoir that we were going to pull water out of, and then I don't know what happened, but next thing I know, we were supposed to be getting water out of the Chattahoochee. So with all of that said, it's imperative that we have water now, because we have other businesses that are looking to move in and to build buildings and all, and we've got to have the water supply. So I like the idea of the 5 years for sure, and especially the $2.80, considering that we're paying City of Atlanta $4.98. And so, like I say, I'm for it.
Okay. Ms. Davis?
I think, were you?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead, sir. You and then I come to Ms. Davis.
Were you after you? She was next.
I didn't know who.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, I
Go
just
ahead.
didn't
You're
want
fine. Go ahead. Go ahead and speak then.
Okay, no. I really want to just really, I'm in favor of what Mayor Pro Tem Heath said. It just makes good business sense. I don't know how long we have to be with the Water Authority, but we're, for less discussion on that, we are sort of hooked into that. But that is not servicing the needs of the water supply that we need today. And not only for the citizens, but we also have industrial clients that are experiencing low pressure and no water sometimes and stuff. So we have to look at what we need to do today, and whatever we can do to mitigate, get out of, or whatever time it takes to get away from what we are obligated to do right now, that is not really servicing our needs, then we have to work on that at the same time. So I'm in agreement, and I commend administration for going out and being proactive about this and getting this kind of deal, because we need it. So thank you.
Mr. McWhitmore, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Phillips, last council meeting when we had a presentation by the Water Authority, I am sure I heard them say that they're pursuing getting water from Fayette County as well. Do you remember hearing that?
No.
Coweta, I'm sorry, from Coweta.
There was, in 2024, early in 2024, there was an initial conversation and dialogue with Coweta. By the time we got to the Water Authority retreat in August, the engineering on that determined that it was neither cost-effective nor the most appropriate route for the authority to pursue. So coming out of that August 10th retreat, that was set aside. There was a conversation with Coweta. The cost per gallon, I think, and this is from memory, Councilman Whitmore, was north of 10-something per 1,000 gallons versus the $2.80 we're talking about with Fayette. So it was just cost prohibitive. It would have necessitated charging residents in the 3 cities more than any city was comfortable with. So there was a dialogue, but it did not turn into anything significant.
Okay. Help me do the math, because that's what I'm interested in. So we've been in Water Authority for 24 years, 1.1, 1.2 million a year, so in excess of $24 million, right?
That debt was not there initially. As you may recall, when they were here at the last meeting, he talked, Dennis Davenport, the attorney, kind of did the history piece. I think that initial indebtedness that we're now paying was incurred in, I want to say 2014, Councilman Whitmore. So it hasn't been the entire 24 years. Initially, they had to get the legislation through the legislature. There was a lot of back and forth. There were some legal battles. Dennis Davenport kind of detailed some of that when he was here. So I think that debt goes back to 2014.
So the $40 million, is that just what represents what we're indebted to, or is that the whole water authority?
That is the whole amount, and it is a portion to cities based on population. So it's not a third per city, because Palmetto is slightly smaller than us, Union City is slightly larger than us.
That's my point. So if my memory serves me correctly, Union City is paying over 1.5 a year. Palmetto is paying 600 a year. And that could be up plus or minus, because I don't know exactly what it is.
I think that's
okay. So even with that indebtedness, let me ask a different question. We have the attorney on, she's available.
She's available,
right?
yes.
Ma'am?
Yes, sir.
So my question is, over 9-10 years ago, I asked some questions about the water authority, and I understand how it came about in the whole 9 yards. I understand the attorney that actually brought forth the water authority in its conception many, many years ago. But at that time, I asked the question about how could we get out of that contract, and at that time, I was told that we could not. As of late, I'm being told we can. Do you have any information relative to that, ma'am?
Councilmember Whitmore, I reviewed this issue probably 18 to 24 months ago. So I need to pull my research. But what I am clear on is that whatever exit rights the city has, the city will still be obligated to pay the debt service. And that's because if you look at authority membership and you look at obligations on bonds, those are two separate constructs. So your obligation for the bonds, that's under a separate contractual arrangement. And your membership in the authority is based on the local legislation that was adopted. But I will pull that research so that I can give you an accurate analysis.
Okay, and thank you for that. And I am aware of the low water pressures that the city has been experiencing in certain areas of the city. And I'm also aware of the concern with the ability to provide fire suppression because of low water pressure, with us not upgrading certain pipes in certain areas to a larger diameter so that we can increase that for firefighting purposes. And again, I just wish there was some sort of way that we had more of a definitive answer to what's really going on with the water authority, because I know that in some conversations, I know another city is ready to pull out as well. All right, and you probably know that better than I.
There are concerns on the part of more than just Fairburn. So there are other concerns out there. I don't want to speak on behalf of any other city, but I would agree with your statement, Councilman Whitmore, that there are some significant concerns out there. There are clearly some decision points to come that this council will give us direction on at the appropriate time as to what the water authority's next steps may or may not be. Anything they proposed, I think Councilwoman Hudson, forgive me, referenced a proposed new agreement. That is nothing more than a proposal, and it would have to be approved by this council. And there's a lot of discussion and concern as it relates to that. So the Water Authority has been challenging issue for many years, and yes, it does need to decide ultimately where that issue will go.
Yeah, and speaking of the additional 50-year obligation with the Water Authority, yeah, I can't even, well, if it came before me right now, and of course I would say no, my vote would be no, of course, because we're looking at other ways of getting water into the city, yes, and I think this is the first time I heard about the storage tank and the management of such, but our cost is still, what, 25 mil?
No, 2.5 million.
2.5, okay,
Yeah,
I didn't put
so-
that dot in there.
So that is just for our 1/3 obligation to the construction of the elevated 1 million gallon tank.
Okay, and we still don't have a cost for the piping coming from,
We have some cost estimates, but we can't give you a hard number until, if you give us direction tonight to move forward. Once we have an executed IGA, then we would start the final design process, working with Fayette County and their engineering team. And then once that final design is in place, it's the typical process you're familiar with. We would then procure that service, and then we could come back. Now, we feel our cost estimates are really solid, and that's why we move forward with the bond funding for this. And so, again, the 2.5 million for the elevated sewer tanks is our maximum obligation. Once that tank is designed and the final cost for that tank comes in, it could be something less than that. We don't know that until we have the final design, and once we have approval to move forward, that's the next step in the process.
right? And the engineering firm, is it you, ma'am, or you, sir? Please. Being an engineer, I know you may have a figure in mind, even though we don't have anything definitive, because we haven't gotten to that level yet. Give me your qualified cost that you think is going to, the road is going to take us down.
For the elevated tank or for the piping?
Elevated tank, piping,
So the elevated tank, like Mr.
we got
Phillips
the
said.
2.5.
Won't exceed 2.5.
Right.
We'll have to install a booster pump station to pump it up to Fairburn. And we anticipate that to be another 2.5 to 3 million.
Okay, and the additional piping throughout the city.
Well, it's like what was shown on the screen, coming up from Thompson Road to Meadow Glen Parkway, and then at the end of Meadow Glen Parkway.
Which is mileage-wise, I know you have that information off the top of your head.
I think it's on the drawing.
Can you pull that back up?
It's like 2,500 feet. Yeah, it's 2,500 feet, and then maybe another. Yeah, so the run up to Meadow Glen is 2,500 feet, and then in the back there, that's probably another 800 feet.
And you're looking at a 10-inch water main for us to achieve the amount of gallons that we're looking at pushing through the city. And that's projections now, and of course, we always look at projections, also taken into effect or into consideration for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yes.
So a 10-inch main, a 10-inch pipe, water main pipe, you think is going to be sufficient to carry us for at least 10 years?
Yes.
I heard something. Oh, yeah. All right. And again, I like looking at numbers because the numbers speak. I'm still concerned about the Water Authority, as I'm sure all of my colleagues sitting up here, we all are, because it's been too long. You know, whatever our indebtednent is, that's what it is, but I'm hoping that that's dwindling down very quickly at 1.1 and 1.2 to $1.2 million a year. It's just money that we can be using for various things within the city of Fairburn. So I look forward to hearing what Madam Attorney looks up in her notes and provides that information to mayor and council as well as yourself, so that we'll have those figures in mind. And again, I too wholeheartedly know that all the complaints that I have had from various communities about the water pressure, and I know that is a major concern, and I know we tried to do various things by boosting it up and asking Atlanta for some assistance. And we usually get a little pushback saying that we have a leak somewhere, but our water department does an outstanding job going out there finding out, no, the leak is not on us, it's someplace else. And again, looking at the distance that it has to travel from Atlanta to us and boost, I understand that. So I just wanted to add those comments in there, and thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Go ahead. Ms. Hudson, and then I'll come back to Ms. Jones.
Okay, so I definitely know what the right needs are for this community. But it seems to get to the point where what we're doing now is reactive and not being proactive. So, Mayor, I'm gonna ask that we have a time frame put in place where this information will be given to council, because in our retreat, we asked the city attorney to provide this information and we don't have it. So with that being said, it's seemingly, are we gonna continue to pay for services and not get the outcomes that we so deserve as a city? That means our legal analysis, the legal advice that we give, the support that this council gets from our city attorney, as well as how we make decisions about taxpayer money. We really should not be sitting in a position where we have to, I'm not saying discard, but we have to county up all of this cost to address a water issue. Water is a human right, the rights of citizens to have clean and accessible water. So I'm a sophomore now. So I'm grappling with a lot of this information and how we allow this to happen. I think as a council, we have to have more oversight, meaning that does not mean getting into the day-to-day, but that does mean having not just a broad perspective, but understanding how we're moving, why we're moving, and when to move. Because this water authority has gone without supervision, and I will say what Mr. Phillips can't say. They're doing what they want, how they want, whenever they want with our money. And what they have done with our money does not prove that our money has been utilized ethically. And what I read and now know, we got some issues to discuss. Now, we're gonna have to put this on the table at our retreat. I need a date for that. But we cannot continue down this path, how money is being spent for the natural resources that are sustaining to the quality of life for Fairburn residents. You gotta be responsible with this. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm against the Fayetteville Water Project, but we are a legislative body, and we're charged with the responsibility to know what's being spent, how it's being spent, how much money is in what account and everywhere. And today, we don't even know that. We don't know that. So I support this water project, but we got to manage this water authority. And I understand that this is not something that Fayetteville is going to be able to do in 30 days. But we can put a time frame on when we're going to deal with this water authority quickly. We can do that on how we're going to do that. But moving to give residents what they so deserve, water, and sustaining the quality of life is very important. But I have to put it out here on the table. We are a legislative body, and we must be fiduciary responsible. It doesn't mean I don't want this project to move forward, but we need to know where the money is, how it's being spent, what our legal obligations is gonna be from leaving this water authority, because I wasn't here when this council voted and went into that agreement with the Water Authority. And then there,
None of us.
None of us.
right, okay, but I am talking.
Go ahead, you still got the floor, go
I
ahead.
wasn't here, but there is a history of members that have been here for a long time. And 12 years, 15 years, and we are millions of dollars in the hole with a water authority. And this is something I've been very passionate about for the last 4 years in researching this. And this is not a good this is not good for Fairburn. It's not. So that's what I'm going to say. I'll say it again. I support this, but I need to make sure that we have a strategic plan in place. We know from our attorney what our indebtedness is and have a plan for exit. We meet with consistently and know what the project focus is for Fayetteville County and Fairburn. I have an intergovernment agreement here, but we have to bring these systems together and align them because our residents deserve this. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
No, I don't have a question.
Okay. The thing I'm going to mention, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard most of the concerns that I could have actually stated already been mentioned. First of all, let me just say this much. There's been an effort, and for those of you that haven't, watched the Water Authority or looked at the minutes, you'll see in our candor between this current city manager and the former one, Tom Barber, who was actually an accountant. And some of the hard questions that was asked, and matter of fact, some of the bad blood came toward Fairburn because he would ask questions that nobody else would, and that's because of his fiduciary duty as an accountant. And so there's a lot of questions that's been asked as relates to, and I've asked them as well as relates to our exit from the Water Authority. I asked that during my last administration and as well as this one. Again, I'm aware that right now and I can't think of the legal term and I don't want to speak out of turn. Your exiting is not, you're getting out of it, it's not that cut and dry. Because if I remember correctly, the bond, and again, I can't remember the legal term. Yes, sir.
So, as Ms. Noel, the attorney, referenced, over 18 months ago, we asked them to look into this issue legally. And in her answer a few moments ago, and I'll defer to her, she wants to go back and look at her notes, but I recall what was sent to us. And it's exactly what Councilwoman Hudson referenced. The debt obligation is a bond issue.
Yes.
So that's one thing. And because the city, whenever it did many years ago, agreed to that, you can't de-obligate. You have to stay obligated to that. The agreement to be in the authority is a wholly separate agreement that was empowered by the state legislature, and there is exit from that agreement. Each city still retains its autonomous decision-making and can decide to exit from that. Now, that is separate from indebtedness, as Ms. Hudson has reminded us.
Right.
But this council can, as an autonomous elected body, make a decision to not be in that agreement. Now, I'll stop there because I'm not the attorney. That's from recollection from what the review Ms. Noel referenced 18 months ago, and she needs time to go back and look at that in detail. But that's what I recall, and I believe that's what I put in the memo that I sent to council on that issue.
Yes, she did.
Go ahead, sir.
This actually goes all the way back to Betty Hanna when she was the mayor here. And I've been on the council now this is my 16th year. And even when I first got on, I tried to find a way of getting out of this. But the thing of it is that I was told that we are obligated on the bonds, like you're saying, and everything, and so we would have to be still paying our $1.1 or $1.2 million a year, irregardless if we stayed in or not. So I had really hoped that in 16 years that we would already be drawing water, but that hadn't worked out. So for people to sit here and say, people have been on here for 15 or 16 years and it's still controversial as to the amount of monies spent and that nothing has been done is erroneous, simply because of the fact that it was set up when Betty Hanna, which was I was a police officer here when she was the mayor, okay? And so therefore, it was set up a long time before I or anybody up here, as far as that goes, that's been on the council. And so I'm just saying that we need to know what we're talking about before we say it, okay? That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Well, let me say this much, members of council.
Well, you don't.
Yeah.
Sir, please, don't disrespect me.
Mr. Heath, Mr. Heath.
Sir.
Sir. You out of order, sir.
He is.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. In this case, let me say this much, ladies and members of council.
Hold on, Mayor.
Ma'am,
He's still watching.
okay, sir, look
You
this
need to
way.
look that way. I don't know what his issue is, but he better go that way.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let's look at, let me do this.
Call for the question.
Call the question. Okay, call the question that's been had. Members of council, now that a call to question simply meaning that members of council, conversation will cease. There's been a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this point, you have an item on the floor. You have an item on the floor. Is there, all in favor? All in favor, say aye.
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 We voted. That's what we voted on.
I made a.
Motion was to approve.
Right, yeah, I made it.
I make a motion to approve the agreement as presented with.
And I
the-
second.
Ms. Davis.
Right.
I
The
second.
call to question in this case means that we bring the vote now to actually vote on it. That's why I did the call to question.
All right.
Okay, so now if the call to question passed, you now, conversation cease and you go to the vote. So now, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
The next item is the fiscal year 2023-2024 final budget.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Purpose for this is to amend the final budget for 2023, 2024. The history. Fiscal year 2023-24 budget was approved on September 24th, 2023. A budget for the general operating account of $29,167,090 was approved, and for all the other funds, $43,609,960. To approve a total budget of $72,777,777.50. On April 26, 2024, budget was amended to increase the general operating fund by $3,005,894. And it also increased all other funds by $4,852,048, for a total increase for the overall budget of $7,857,942. That increased the general operating budget to $32,172,984, and the other funds increased to $48,462,008. At the end of the fiscal year, after we've done all of our closing entries with the audit, we did some changing, we did some cleanup of our budget, and what we found out was the general fund, as you can see, was presented to you. There's no change in the overall budget of $32,172,984. There was no change within that budget. However, there was a change within all the other funds, the electrical fund in particular, of $226,297. And then that was due to contracted services for on-call services.
Is that it? That's it?
Yes, sir. We're requesting that Mayor and Council approve an ordinance to amend the budget for fiscal year 2023-2024, which will, again, not increase the general fund budget. It will remain the same, what was approved mid-year, but it will increase all the other funds.
Members of council, you have before you a final budget amendment from 2023 to 24. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments by council?
I'm going to abstain for this vote. I was not here when y'all did that.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Mr. Jones?
Yes. All right, so this is a reallocation of the budget, that's correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and the reallocation, you're moving monies into the electric fund? Did I get that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, is that the bulk of the reallocation?
Yes, ma'am. That is the bulk of the reallocation that provided an increase. Yes, ma'am. For the electrical fund.
Yes, and the reasoning for the additional funds needed? in the
Contracted services for on-call services.
Okay. Did something happen that we needed more on-call services? Or are we reallocating in anticipation of increased on-call services?
This is for the previous year. This is not this current year.
Okay.
This is the previous year.
All right, help me with that, meaning we had contracts and we owe more money on those contracts than we originally.
So this is the cleanup for budget year that started October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2024. The additional 175 was for professional services that are done outside of the department in reference to if they're doing boring underneath the roadway for electrical infrastructure. And so that money needed to be allocated in the budget, and so we're adding it in the budget for expenditures from 2024.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
That motion carries.
Are you opposing or
I
abstaining?
just went on and opposed, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Next item.
The next item is the benefit renewal for 2025. Recommendations, request mayor and council approval to proceed with the recommended renewal offerings and implementation of the 2025 employee benefits plan.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council.
Good
evening.
As you know, each year, our city administration, along with human resources, our brokerage team, and our finance team, we come together to review the city's benefits package as it relates to cost, so that we are able to improve the health and well-being of our employees. This year, our plan design has been designed with a full scope of insurance products that we believe is of a great value to our employees. The recommended changes for our 2025 plan year include the following, which will be, we are looking to move our dental and vision services from United Healthcare to Cigna, which will do a group package. We are also looking to add a hospital indemnity plan under Unum for our employees that would allow them to be able to pay for out-of-pocket costs for being admitted into the hospital. We are also looking to transition our current basic life and disability benefits from Lincoln Financial over to Unum. And we are also looking to continue our current HRA plan that we currently have into place. I'm going to step aside just for a moment to allow our brokerage team. We have here tonight Ms. Jamila Mathis, who is our client services manager. We also have Mr. Dan Knackers, who is our client services leader, and they will provide you a brief overview presentation on tonight.
Come on up, sir and ma'am. Oh. I'm looking at the wrong guy.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, for the meeting, this meeting agenda, we'll go over introducing myself and my partner here. We'll talk about the medical, dental, and vision renewal executive summary here. We'll look at the ancillary benefits, which are your medical, your dental, your vision, your life, and disability benefits. And then we'll review our renewal recommendations, and we'll have questions afterwards. Okay. Myself, Jamila Mathis, and my partner, Dan Knackers, who is our client experience leader, presenting here tonight. As you will recall, last year we did a full medical marketing analysis, and the council members decided that we would move from United Healthcare, the medical benefits, to Cigna. So we did a move of the medical benefits to Cigna. We also decided to opt out of the medical stipend, which was provided to employees if they did not elect the medical benefits. We did not see a significant impact on the enrollments by opting out of that stipend, There was about 39 members that waived in the previous year and 44 members that waived this year. So the enrollment numbers for each plan will be provided in the appendix of this presentation if you want to look what those enrollment numbers look like. Year to date, your claims are running very high at 180% medical loss ratio. We're looking at data from April to September of 2024. What that means is that for every dollar that the city spends in premium, Cigna spends $1.80 of that in claims costs. Okay, so there's been one high claimant that's no longer on the plan that incurred over $1 million in claims during that period. There is an additional active claimant that has incurred $630,000 in claims and is expected to exceed up to $450,000 more in the upcoming year due to medical issues. Okay, so for your renewal, Cigna initially presented a 13.9%, that's based on that 180 loss ratio, which would have resulted in $403,000 annualized increase over your current premium rates. Cigna did come back and revise that renewal for a non-market offer, which means that if we were to renew with them without going to the market and soliciting markets, they would give us an 8.5% renewal. So they reduced it from 13.9 to 8.5. That's 246 annualized increase, which is down from the 403,000. Additionally, to move the dental and the vision to Cigna, they would give us another 1% reduction. So that renewal would come in at 7.4% increase over your current premium. So that annualized increase is around 215,000, and that's based on the current enrollments as it is. So given how your claims are running so far, moving to Cigna seems a very favorable renewal offer that they've given us, and our recommendation would be to renew that benefit at the non-market with Cigna, as well as to move that dental and vision to Cigna for that medical reduction and savings. Any questions?
In this case, I need to bring the item, to the floor. Members of council, you have before you and.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I do have, I was just asking if there were any questions on the medical. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So for the dental renewal, you wanted to show you what United Healthcare came back. United Healthcare came back at an 8.1% increase for your dental renewal.
Mm-hmm.
We did go to market on the dental and the vision, and Cigna came back very favorable with the dental, giving a 2.6, I'm sorry, I could barely see it, a 2.6 increase, so they lowered that. So for your United Healthcare renewal, that was about a $10,000 annual increase at the 8.1%, and then Cigna's quoted a 2.6, which is $3,000 annualized increase. United Healthcare held the rates on the vision, so there was no increase to the vision, but Cigna came in and quoted 18% reduction on the vision. So there is a $3,900 savings to that by moving the dental and the vision over to Cigna. All right. So the result, annualized savings to the premium. The plus additional savings is $31,000 off the medical by moving that dental and that vision. So off the medical, you're saving $31,000 by moving the dental and the vision over to Cigna. So as mentioned, our recommendation would be to move the dental and the vision benefits to Cigna.
Okay. What I'm going to do is just bring the item to the floor, and then members of council. Members of council.
Still has more minutes.
Keep going through.
Okay, going.
Super Bowl over.
Next, we'll look at the life and the disability benefits. For the life and disability benefits, you're currently with Lincoln. Lincoln's renewal presented a 5.7% increase on the basic life and accidental death and dismemberment. That is an annualized increase of $1,900. Unum presented a 4.3% reduction, which is an annualized savings of $1,500 to move those benefits over to Unum. For the employee paid voluntary life benefits, there was no rate increase to that, so Unum matched that. They matched the current rates that you have and did not increase that as well. For the long-term disability, Lincoln provided a 7.1% increase. That was an annualized increase over the current rates of $3,100 roughly. Unum provided a 22.9% reduction on the long-term disability, which is a decrease. So that was an annualized savings of around $10,000. So to move those benefits over, that would be the life and the disability, short-term, long-term disability. Now you have worksite benefits, which is your accident and your critical illness benefits. That is with Unum currently. There's no increase to those benefits. They will roll over as they are with no increase. Unum also provided, as Talisha said, a hospital indemnity plan. That is a reimbursement plan. If you are admitted to the hospital, it helps to put money back in the pocket to help pay for any out-of-pocket expenses. Now you do have a current HRA program. We are proposing to move the administration of that to MedCom, which is a different vendor that just separates the HRA out from the current FSA. What we found is that it was causing confusions with the employees to have both of those funding mechanisms with one carrier, so we're proposing to move that out. By moving that to MedCom, there is some cost savings with that as well. All right, on this next slide, our recommendations are to keep the employee contributions the same as they currently are now with those increases. So the total annualized increase to the city for the 2025-26 plan year, and this is based on your current enrollment, is around $208,000. Now below what you'll see in those two charts are just an overview of your current on the left-hand side versus the renewal rates on the right-hand side. And these contributions are based on our recommendations to stay with Cigna and to move that dental and that vision over to Cigna, and also to move the life and the disability to Unum. As Talisha mentioned, we're going to keep the HRA plan that you currently have. We're estimating that spend around $140,000. That's just utilizing 25% of the population. We're projecting that 25% of the population will use those funds. To date, currently, you only have a spend of around $60,000. Okay, so for our final recommendations, again, it will be to renew the current Cigna medical plan with no changes. There's no increases to the employee contributions. We are looking at moving the dental and the vision benefits to Cigna to take advantage of the savings on the medical renewal. We are also looking at moving the life and disability to Unum. That consolidates and bundles the ancillaries all under one program with Unum, as well as the worksite benefits, adding that hospital indemnity plan there. We'll keep the HRA as it is and move that administration to MedCom. Now, your current COBRA benefits and your FSA benefits will roll over. There's no changes to that with the current vendor at Admin America.
That is done members of council, in this case, you have before you a recommendation that's been benefits renewal for 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Ms. Jones, and then Ms. Davis. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Basically, I wanted to know, or the dental and vision, since it's moved, do we have the same benefits that we had prior to? Has any of that changed? Okay. Thank you.
Any other? Go ahead, Ms. Jones.
So I wanted to ask the question regarding the census. Yeah, I think that's the right term. The census. So last year, we disallowed paying individuals not to participate in the plan because originally the idea was, they would not utilize the plan and thus thereby keeping our costs down. But what you discovered is that we needed those bodies to increase our census, our population. so that our premiums would be lowered or stay reasonable. Is that correct?
So your premiums are increased, or with the increase that you see on the premiums is based off of that medical loss ratio, which is the high-cost claimants. You didn't have a big shift in enrollment by us removing that stipend. And you'll see that in a couple slides I'll show you. You may have had maybe 5 or 6 employees that picked up the healthcare this year that didn't pick up the healthcare that last year. It's hard for me to determine if those were waivers, if those was actually new hires throughout the plan year.
All right, okay, all right, thank you. That's all I need to know.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At this time, Mr. Council, we'll go to council comments. I'll actually start off with Mayor Pro Tem. Start.
No comment.
Okay. Mr. Whitmore?
Thank you, Mayor. Of course, this past Saturday, had the opportunity of going and celebrating the life of Mrs. Frankie Arnold. Very beautiful service. And I tell you, I was amazed at finding out that she went to represent Fairburn in a way that I never knew she had. By going straight to the governor's office without a pass or anything and getting in to see the governor and advocating for the city and getting monies that the city needed way back then.
Yeah.
That's a part of history that I was not aware of. And also the fact that she's going to receive the highest award that any citizen in the state of Georgia can receive. And I think that's a testament of having someone that did things her way. And she got through and was able to do those things. So again, it was just a beautiful homegoing service. I'm just glad that I had the opportunity to be there and participate. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Ms. Hessen?
Yes, I wanted to remind our citizens that the homestead exemption deadline is April 1st. I apologize, I had a flyer that I misplaced. There's going to be some support for seniors at New Beginnings to get this application done and complete. Civic in the City is coming back starting in March. Look out for that. Those of you who have not already signed up for my community newspaper, please go and stroll over to www.fairburnforward.com. That's where you can see some of the things that I'm doing in the city and have direct engagement with me. I also want to encourage our residents, hey, this is an election year, and some of you have concerns that you have spoke to me about, and I hope that those concerns will interest you and empower you to consider running for city council. I always say this, that all politics is local, and that for most importantly, the things that you want to see happen in your community, you should model them. No one owns a seat. And so I encourage you to get active and get involved and to make sure that you are part of the comprehensive planning for the city of Fairburn, as well as for the courthouse and the other initiatives that are occurring. I want to say thank you to several residents who have been staying engaged, all of you all that are sending emails, your messages, even on social media, and your emails of engagement lets me know that you are paying attention.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Davis?
No comments, Mayor.
All right, Ms. Jones?
Yes, Mayor. I too wanted to remind our citizens about the homestead exemption. We had agreed last meeting that we were going to put that information in our next newsletter, Mr. Phillips. So I was looking for it for this month. But if we can make sure that that information gets out for the March newsletter, given the deadline is April 1st. And that is great news that New Beginning will be assisting the residents in completing that application. I too attended the homegoing service of the Honorable Frankie May Arnold. I did not know her first name was Essie, so it's actually Essie Frankie May Arnold. And if you all may know, she is the namesake that's on the amphitheater next to Odd's Pizza, and what a legacy that she has left us. I also want to thank Mr. Lassiter for the work that he has done over the years for the Blue Light Christmas. Thank you, Chief, for bringing forth that recognition. You know, work gets done, and oftentimes we don't know who's doing the work. So I really appreciate getting to know him, and thanks again for that. And thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Again, I want to thank, let me publicly thank the city staff for during the homegoing service of Councilwoman Franklin May Arnold. The family was just blown away with the display of public safety and all that went in from the former members of council, the former mayors, and in this case, it was clearly a united front at the homegoing service with everyone. Ms. Barclay Russell, as you may have seen, in this case, the Channel First Atlanta article. It was just an awesome display of respect and honor and levels I never deemed possible. And the family wanted me to publicly make sure I thank this governing body and this government for making a mark in the city of Fairburn during a homegoing service that'll never be erased. We want to just also thank, as you heard, I think someone mentioned in this case, Representative Glaze that restored the highest honor that can be restored on a citizen in the state of Georgia from our current governor. I want to also thank our former governor, Roy Barnes, who spoke very well at the homegoing service. And again, I want to thank all of our employees that were current, and for a lot of former employees, again, that came out in full stride, and to make sure, again, that this homegoing service, again, will be talked about for decades. Finally, want to just thank all the staff, again, as you heard me mention, I think at the last meeting, in previous planning and zoning director, as well as our current and the search and the staff that are making every effort to continue to make sure our comprehensive plan is indicative of our future growth and basically properly inclusive of all the future development that the city of Fairburn will encounter. And so with that being said, I want to just say thank all our entire staff for a job well done as it relates to this comprehensive plan. With that being said, can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Motion is made, all in second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? And the motion carries. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.